All right, good morning. And so welcome to another weekly preview video. So I decided instead of making two videos, making a weekly recap and then making a market preview, I'll just combine the two of them into one video, and that's how it's going to be going forward. So a quick look at what happened last week. So last week we had looked at, as usual, we had started with the fractal OF. Just a moment, just realizing I didn't load my charts. All right, so while we wait for that to load, we had looked at swing shots. So basically, I have about a couple of models I trade. So one of the things you want to do as a trader, it's basically not to just imagine the scenario of a hunter trying to get prey or trying to get game in the bush. There are different ways you could go about it. You could either be running around the whole forest trying to shoot every animal you come across, or you could just lay targeted traps and then wait for the animals to run into your trap, right? So I believe it's easier to basically build a trap and then wait for the market to come into the kind of traps, quote and off quotes, that you have created. And that's what trading model gives us. So one of the mistakes that many beginner trader makes is trying to trade everything that's happening in the market. It's not going to be possible. You are going to end up frustrating yourself, having endless losses, blowing accounts, and all that. So what you should do is to have a couple of things that you have for yourself that you understand that you are going to trade. So one of the things we do in the fostering program is to try to help you to create these models for yourself. So we teach you so many models, we give you insights into different things, and then we'll try to help you to come up with one for yourself. So one of the ones that I use, mentioning a couple of them, there's the swing shots, there's the fractal OF, and the fractal OF is divided into the weekly fractal OF and the daily fractal OF. So swing shots and fractal OF is something that is very a lot of people in the fostering program or the heroes of the fostering class, that's those who have attended the program in time past, have found very useful, and many of them have embraced. So why is this taking so long? All right. So we'll go to the daily charts. All right. So I'm going to hide this for now so that we'll just focus on, let me take it off. Just add fractals and levels. So I want to see our fractal structure, right? And then the last one I'm going to basically add, I'm going to be using this. So I basically use that to visualize the weekly range. All right, so last week, this was what we had. So price had been in a fractal downtrend, right from the 23rd of April. So it broke this to the downside, went up, attempted to break through this, failed, reversed back down. We were able to catch this trade, me one, reverse down to the downside, pull back up, and every push up, we're expecting what an opportunity to sell. So price came um closed here on Friday, and I said we're expecting to have what price push up and then come down. Remember what I drew, the M formation, all right, the false moves. We're expecting when we're in a downtrend, we're expecting to see something like this. Price come down. So we're expecting to see this on H4 and then all the way down. So this is going to be your fractal high. Then price will run it out and then we'll go all the way down. So that was basically what we're expecting of the fractal OF, which was basically what happened last week. So we had this fractal high, and I mentioned I used the USD basket on Derive to basically frame what is going on here. So we had this fractal high, and then price runs above it and then begins to go down. All right. And then one of our primary targets is the previous day's low, right? Then the previous week's low, and then finally the weekly range. And price fully delivered on that last week. Unfortunately, we couldn't really get a proper entry, but I'm not going to be discussing entries today. That's going to be that's exclusive to those in the fostering class or in the heroes class. I will just give an example of what we could have done maybe a couple of weeks back, because I promised us in the heroes platform. There's something I'm developing. I'll be sharing it in currents in the fostering program that will be kicking off in June. I promised them I'm going to give them that, so I'll just run through it later in this video. So this was what we're expecting, and that played out fine. Now on swing shots, these are swing shot indicator, and I mentioned last week the color ash basically means that we are inconclusive. So we're closed within the week, within the range of the previous week. So once we close within the range of the previous week, it's basically telling us that we don't have a conclusive bias one way or the other, because the swing shot basically measures the weekly momentum, the momentum of the last weekly candle, right? So what do we do when we have an inconclusive week? We basically wait for the market to give us an indication of what to do. So that just like you see here, right? When we have an inconclusive week, and I mentioned it, you wait for fractal highs, fractal lows to be formed, and whichever one is taken out first is we are going in the opposite direction. So here we take out this fractal high, then we expect to go down. Again, this week, fractal high, fractal low was formed. We take out the fractal high first. We expect to go down. All right, so what do we expect for the current week? So last week, we got to the weekly range, and then price quickly reversed from there and closed within the range, right? So we didn't get an ATR burst, so we can trade normally. So the fractal OF is still bearish, and swing short is also telling us bearish, right? We are bearish. Basically, we closed below the last week's low, right? So we closed below last week's low. So we are basically bearish. So that's basically our bias. Already we've had this fractal high form, and then price has run above it. So from this point henceforth, we'll be looking for opportunities to sell of the high of the week. Of personally, because this basically happened during this year, we'll still be expecting. I'm still expecting price to still come up, take this out, and then give us a proper move to the downside. But we'll see how that goes. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're not going to do that, and then you just have to catch an intra-week trade. So basically, after the video last week, some people reached out and said, okay, we didn't really get what you meant by the fractal OF on the daily. Now, basically, what you want to see whenever you're trading is this. So let's assume we are looking for a sell. Now, remember, if we are looking for a sell on the USD, we'll be looking for a buy on EU, that's Euro USD, and a buy on GBP USD as well. And I mentioned one of the things that I do to avoid over trading is that I only take the intraday setups on EU. And what are we looking for? We are looking for, if we are looking for this to occur on the USD, this is going to be our Asian high, right? So wait for the Asian high to form, and after Asian high during London and New York, we expect price to run above the Asian high and then give us a reason to sell, and we'll be taking the sell. So what do we expect on EU? On EU, we'll be expecting a reverse. So on EU, we'll be expecting something like this. This being your Asian low, right? And then you expect price to pump down like this. All right, so basically it's going to force all the people that are here. So I'm just going to quickly explain why we trade this way. So people that are here basically have that enter this buy at this point, basically have their stop loss somewhere here. Now, once price runs through it, it forces all those stops to become sell orders. Now, remember, your SL for a buy is actually a sell stop. So it's going to force selling. It's going to induce selling. at this level. It's going to force these people to sell. Now, these guys, the market makers, want to buy. So they need to pair their orders against some sellers. Remember, when you are buying, you need to have sellers that you can buy from. So they are going to force these people that were buying here before to become sellers and then buy off the orders from them. At the same time, breakout traders who are looking to trade a breakout to the downside of this level will also do what? Become sellers to them. They'll become liquidity. So that is where the concept of liquidity really comes in. So they are going to provide the liquidity to the market makers to buy. So on EU, we'll be expecting this Asian low, push to the upside, then during London, New York, break to the downside, and then we get this move to the upside, taking out previous this low and targeting even the weekly range as well. So if we go to MT4, let's look at EU as well. EU has also been bullish for a very long time. So this is the daily fractal order flow on EU. So sometimes they hide some things. Sometimes dollar will be bearish and then EU will be bullish. In such cases, you can actually trade both ways. You can take both the sells and the buys until there's a definite breakout and the two of them begins to agree. And this is our intraday. This is the H4 fractal OF. So this is the fractal trend on the daily. This is the fractal trend on H4. So what you want to do when you want to trade intraday, you want the daily and the H4 to agree. So once the daily and the H4 are agreeing, you want to be taking your buys. All right. So how could you frame your buys? There are different ways you could look for entries, different methods of looking for entries. One of the ways we do it is simply to come to the pair we want to trade, and then if we want to sell, basically look for price to close below the open of the highest bullish candle. So something like this, price closes below the open of this bullish candle, and that will be your reason to sell. All right, now this is an exclusive for those in the Heroes program, but I'm going to make it available. I'll be going much in depth into it with them later on, but I'll just drop it here for free. So one of the things that we know that usually tends to drive markets is basically the balance between your demand and your supply. No matter what anybody says, is the law of economics. Basically, there could be other things that are moving it. There could be other reasons for going there and all that. But at the end of the day, price is not going to reverse until there is a mismatch between sellers and buyers. All right. So as long as there is a match, as long as the buying pressure, as long as the buying volumes at each level is remaining the same, that is the buying pressure and the selling pressure are remaining the same, price is just basically going to remain nowhere, right? Price is not going to move. So what you want to do, or one of the ways we can anticipate reversal points, is to monitor the difference between demand and supply. That's one of the reasons, one of the things we are going to be using this particular indicator. It measures the demand and the supply difference at any level. So right now here, just watch here. I want you to watch this zone. All right, I'm going to magnify it so that we could see that very clearly. All right, just a moment. All right. So you had price. Remember, we are targeting our Asian low, right? So when was our Asian low taken out? Right here. All right, and what do you see? Watch here, down, it's going down, and then you have this pushing up, down, 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 up. That right there is your indication that price is what's about to turn. For those that are in the Heroes platform, they know we usually use a minimum of 10 pips for entries. So right at this candle, you enter 10 pips. All right, that's 100 points. 10 pips is 100 points. So this is 58 points. And then you want to aim for your first TP, usually a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, which will be about here. And then your second TP is a 1-to-3 ratio, which will be about 30 pips. That is 300 points. And that is that. And you are out of the trade. So that's basically what we could be looking for. So on this day, what will I be expecting? So now price is both bullish, H4 and daily. So what could happen? We could see something like this. Start, all right, one price to come down, right? Take this out, and then we'll be watching this when that happens to see a turn. We want to see a turn basically, and then we'll begin to go to the opposite direction. Again, you could just see that happen somewhere here, even though usually we'll not trade this because once price takes out opposing liquidity, we'll no longer look for trades in that direction. So price basically took out yesterday, took out Friday's high. We'll basically not be looking for buys on Mondays again. But let's just assume we would have entered maybe somewhere here. That's basically how you would have framed that, right? So that's basically how you would have framed that. Now, if you were looking for the sell, on the other hand, you would have entered somewhere here, right? So remember, let's look at that, push up, and then it pushes down. If you are not sure, you could wait for this. This is very clear. But the actual entry was somewhere here. You'd have gotten in 10 pips SL, and then you are going down. But again, that is just explaining how you could enter. I'm not saying that these were valid trades at all. So just explaining how you could have taken this trade. So this week we are completely bearish on the USD. If we go to the fractal OF, which usually gives me an indication of when we could have what to expect, when we could have a change of OF. So our last fractal high is way up here. This is going to be really difficult to run up from here, all right, to change fractal OF. So what I'll be anticipating is that we'll probably range for today, go above this high tomorrow, Wednesday, right? So we'll go above the high here on Wednesday, and then we'll have a sell-off, a small sell-off, and maybe just maybe later towards the end of the week, or maybe on Monday or Tuesday, we could have a change in fractal OF. That is if they are going to change fractal OF. So that is basically what to anticipate for this week. I am full on bearish. So I'll be waiting for them to take out the current high they've set in. If they don't take out that high and then continue going down, no problem. Tomorrow, we'll simply look for our Asian high. Remember what we did? We'll simply look for our Asian low rather on EU to be taken. Once our Asian low on EU is taken, then we'll look for a pump to the upside. So there are different ways to play the game. Remember, what we need to do for that to take place is that both our H4, right, our H4 and our daily must remain bullish. So this currently is a fractal low in that is currently forming here. If this candle is confirmed bullish, then this will be a confirmed, it remains like this, then this will be a confirmed fractal low. As long as price doesn't close below it, I'll be looking for an opportunity to go up tomorrow. That is if price continues the upward trajectory. But what I'm really expecting is that price is still going to push down a little bit. All right, take this guy out either today or tomorrow, and then give us a weekly trade. That is what I'm really hoping on, because that would then give me a trade on both EU and GU, which is better than just looking for a trade on EU. All right, so that's that for the weekly preview. For those in the Heroes platform and then who will be joining the fostering class, we'll be exploring um, volume concepts a little bit closer for our entries. I've shown us the demand and supply. Also talk about cumulative volume delta and all that. So those are things that could give you early hints of um, price turning points, which is basically what we are trying to do. We are trying to catch the highs of the week, the lows of the week, the highs of the day, and the lows of the day, depending on the direction we're expecting to go. Now, for you as a beginner, the first thing you want to do constantly is to get your bias right. So if you get your bias right, then you can then begin to work on other things. So risk management, entries, and all those things. But if you're not getting your bias right week in, week out, then you are basically going to be struggling. So if you look at what we have here, you are basically factor OF is something that enables you to get your bias right majority of the time. So you break to the upside, every push to the downside is an opportunity to buy. Every push to the downside is an opportunity to buy. Every push to the downside is an opportunity to buy until it is broken. Once it's broken, you begin to look for sells. You look for sells. You look for sells. You look for sells. You look for sells until it is again broken to the upside. All right. So have a fantastic trading week. If you have any questions, you could drop it in the group chat and I'll be willing to answer such questions.